All righty, here we go. Welcome back to the podcast, guys. Today I got a very special guest. My God, look at you, man. It's Tejano superstar right here, and it's cool, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for coming on the podcast. In case somebody doesn't know you out there, can you kind of just introduce yourself, please?
My name is Bobby Pulido. I sing Tejano music. I wouldn't say superstar. That sounds really pretentious. Um, I'm the son of Roberto Pulido, who's definitely a legend and he's a superstar. So he's been at it 60 years. And so 30 years ago, I started my career as a musician, try to get out of his shadow and make a name for myself. And so I've been doing that ever since. And studied political science at St. Mary's. Didn't finish. I was 21 hours short.
Wow.
21
Okay.
hours short of graduating. Yeah. And so I was always wanted to be a political science major. That was my dream, and I wanted to be a lawyer. I've always been infatuated with the legal way. Well, even when I was in high school, I was a Texas Boy Stater as well.
Hmm.
So so government was always my favorite subject, history, um, and civics. It was just something that I really enjoyed.
So let's talk about music and the jump to the political arena. They're two completely different things. Like what was going through your mind when you decided that you wanted to do that?
They are and they aren't.
Okay.
They are and they aren't. I mean, on many levels, they're very similar. Um, I always wanted to do that first, so that was kind of my plan that I wanted to do. But and when I was in school, I was always very studious, so I did really well in school.
Hmm.
And I came down on vacation to the Rio Grande Valley, and my dad, was it recording in the studio, and he said, "Hey, son, will you sing a song with me?" And one thing led to the other. I sang the song. He didn't want to. I told him I don't want to be a singer. I want to be a lawyer. And he's like, "No, no, I just want it for me." But he showed it to the label, and I didn't know. And I probably would have won a huge lawsuit if I, to be quite honest with you, because they put it out on the radio and
Huh.
they didn't tell me.
Really?
Had no idea. Yeah.
Wow.
So months later, my friend's like, "Hey, dude, I heard you on the radio." I'm like, I go, "No, no." They go, "Yeah, you're singing with your dad." And so, I started I got two big labels into a bidding war. Uh, and my dad was like, "No, son, I want you to finish school." I'm like, "Look, dad, you started this, so stay out of it." I was a broke college student.
Uh-huh.
So my thought process was, I'm gonna negotiate a contract. I'm gonna go try to sing an album, go record an album and see what happens. If I do well, I'll stay in music. And if I don't do well, I'll still have money and I'll come back to college and I'll finish out my school. So it was kind of like I had my backup plan, right? My
Right.
contingency plan. And so I ended up negotiating my dad's contract too in that negotiation. And so I got him like 100% raise from
Wow.
what he was making. And so I negotiated a pretty damn good deal for me, to be honest with you.
That's
And
amazing.
I had that discussion with my dad. I told dad, "Look, dad, I'm going to put it in the hands of the people. If they like me," and my dad would tell me, my dad's very honest. We're very honest people. We tell it like it is. We
Right.
get that from my grandfather, he was the same way. And he says, "Son, you're not ready." And I said, "No, I know, I know." He goes, "You haven't sang enough to be a pro, and you're getting into something it's a professional singer's world." And I said, "I know, but I'm a hard worker." And I said, and I'm gonna work hard and see how it goes, And sure enough, my first CD shot through the roof. That was
Wow.
Desvelado. And so been there for 30 years doing that.
And then the
And so,
rest is history.
yeah, so my life came full circle. And you know, after thinking about it, because Lorena Gonzalez, Vicente's wife, is the one that kind of told me, "You know a lot about politics." She was surprised. And I said, "Well, I studied that, so I've always been I've always been somebody that's up to date with what's going on and also
Yeah.
what's the history that has happened, right? I'm a fan of history." And I said, I'm gonna, she told me, "You ought to do it." And I go, "Well, I love my life." So she kind of planted the bug, and over time I talked it over
How
with
many
my
years
wife.
ago was that?
That was in 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that was in 2022. And so I started thinking about it, talking to my wife about it and saying like, "Hey, what do you think about me running for Congress?" She goes, "You want to do that right now?" She goes, "You're doing great with your career." I go, I know I'm probably stupid, but I said, but at the time I was 50 years old, you know, said something that I'm really considering doing.
Yeah.
And she said, "Well," she told me this. She said, "You haven't written many songs recently, and you're always talking about what's going on with current events." She goes, "So I'm not surprised." She goes, "If you want to do that, I'll back you up. Let's
So
do
she
that."
had already seen that shift in like your mentality or whatever your
Saw that. No,
mindset was.
she saw that shift when she met me.
Okay.
Because when you meet somebody and you're in courtship, we've been married, going on 7 years now.
Wow.
So so you have that courtship and you get to learn people's tastes. And she knows, people that know me have always known that I'm very political.
Hmm.
A sense politically astute. I can't say I'm very politically uh dogmatic, I can't say that, but just a fan of politics in
Right.
general, right? And how they operate. And
Yeah.
so anyway, so she wasn't surprised. She was a little surprised because my career's been had been going really well. Um, and but I'm like, you know what? I got one life to live, and I've always wanted to do this, and I've been very blessed to have been put in a position now that I can run and make a run at it. And to be honest with you, I know I'm the underdog. Uh, I'm running in a district that's very tough to win.
Yeah.
It
Let me
it,
ask you
it
this. Through the years of performing and meeting people, I can only assume that you've met tons of people. How has it helped you shape like what you did out there with what you're doing now? Because I can assume like going out and meeting people as Bobby Pulido, the Tejano star versus the political arena. What does that shift look like? What does that conversation look like with people?
it's like I told you, right? There's a lot of similarities. As a performer, you're looking to please people.
Hmm.
You're looking to see like what's going to make them tick. How am I going to get them like in a good way, right? Like how am I going to get their attention to where they like my music and helps my business? And I think in politics it's the same way. You look at the concerns that people have. You listen. Believe it or not, I believe that the best public servants, politicians, people running are always the best listeners
Yeah.
because because they listen to the concerns of people and say, okay, I hear you. And to be honest with you, the political paradigms are constantly shifting. My values haven't shifted. My values have been the same. Never shifted. I'm the same person I've always been, politically speaking, even though sometimes the parties they do this, right?
Yeah.
They go this way and then they converge sometimes. Right now you're seeing Marjorie Taylor Greene it talking, and it sounds like she's been listening to me talk about stuff. And I'm on the other side of that political aisle, but there's a lot of common ground and a lot of agreement. I think we're having that in politics right now is that, Josh, the best view, I'm a big football fan, a huge football fan. The best view of a football game is always between the 40-yard lines
Hmm.
because you get to see both end zones. You get to see what happens and everything. You have a better picture. If you have your choice to go buy a ticket, you're going to choose in between the 40-yard lines. And if you're in the end zone, when you see something in the end zone, it's pretty cool because it's really close.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the end zone, you don't see anything.
You don't see anything. I
You don't even,
experienced it at the UTRGV game, which is amazing. I'm so
yeah,
happy that Edinburgh has this.
yeah. And I'll be going there on the last game. So looking forward. But so politically speaking, I think most people are there. That's where I am. Just sometimes you have these party labels and people have been taught to hate the other side and hate somebody
Right.
that's a different label than you do.
Yeah.
And I don't view it through those lenses. I really view it as like what needs to be fixed and how do we get it done? And I'm going to tell you, if you see things that need to get fixed and how do you get it done? It's by working with people on the other side. and people that might be on the other side of the 40, on the other 40, but they're still not too far from you.
Right.
And I don't think that, yes, there's people that are very extreme on both sides that go, I'm on this team and I don't care about the other team and I don't care what they have to do. And I know that those people are pretty unmovable, and and that's okay. But I don't think that that's where the majority of the people are.
Right. Yeah, I think I can agree with you on that. When you think about South Texas specifically, because I've lived here my whole life, this is where I know everybody. My family's here. This is where I work. When you think about South Texas specifically, what comes to your mind? Because you have a different vantage point than I do, right? Because you see it from a different perspective.
I don't know.
I'm
How old are you?
I'm
Have
44.
44. Okay, I'm 52. So I'm from a little bit slightly ahead of you, but not too far off. Um, how do I see South Texas? I think we're very culturally conservative down here as people. Um, Very religious. Most of the houses you go into have a cross or a picture of Jesus or the Virgin Mary.
Right.
It's just the way of our life, right? And I say I think a lot of people down here are very morally righteous in a good way. We never get crazy, you know, about anything. Even there's unrest across the country, big cities, people are, burning buildings, and we march peacefully. People here are just more chill,
Hmm.
and we always help each other out. I believe that's our spirit. I don't know if there's any communities that has as many fundraisers for things and galas, to help each other out, and we never cease to answer the call. We're always there,
Yeah.
and we're very giving people. We're very on many simple, and I say that in a flattering way. Um, I like the slow life, man. I mean, I say that, but it's very healthy to raise a family. I mean, my wife's from Mexico City, so when we had our son here in Texas, in Edinburgh, I said we both agreed that this was going to be a great place to raise a family.
Yeah.
And our son, because she's from Mexico City, and trust me, Mexico City is nice, but it's a zoo, man.
There's
I
a
mean,
lot going on over there. I love that place just to visit.
it's like, yeah, it's like watching a Marvel movie with all these stuff's going on everywhere and you don't even know where to focus on. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that. So I'm from here. My dad was born in Edinburgh. My grandfather, his dad was born in Edinburgh, and so somos de aquí. We're part of the culture, that we have. And,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
and here's the thing: in a political sense, Josh, we've always been Democrats,
Yeah.
right? Historically, right? This is a place that that was our way, right? So it's the way we've always been. Now it's shifted little by little by little by little. It's shifted red a little. It's not completely red. It's not. I mean, all of our local officials in the Rio Grande Valley are in Hidalgo County at least, are Democrats.
Hmm.
They're not Republicans. So, and people vote for them. It's not like they're voting for the party label. They vote for
Right.
the ideals of who you are. And I think that on a national scale, that's the thing that needs to kind of change, because, you know, we're always like predisposed to these different franchises that sell us on what a Democrat or a Republican should be.
Right. What they stand for, what they stand for.
Yeah, yeah, like progressivism was not a thing when I was in school. Like that didn't even exist. We wouldn't talk that way. It wasn't a thing, and then not that long ago, the Tea Party came into existence. That was a different thing on the Republican side. So there's kind of these franchises that come to the Valley and they kind of try to sell you. And it just seems like we haven't really crafted our own identity to say
Right.
this is what a South Texas Democrat stands for. And my vision is to promote that, right? And say this is who we are as a people, and this is who we be. That way, if somebody tries to come and sell a different idea, it's not going to be that easy for them to do so, because you know what? Let's be honest with you, East Coast and West Coast came up with a lot of stuff that we don't talk like that here.
Right.
And there was a disconnect. So a lot of people went, well, who am I? Started getting into questioning who they are. And that's not a criticism on progressivism. The same way it's not a criticism on MAGA. It's just there's just different ideologies that come and they try to sell ourselves, but I think we have a unique culture. I mean, it's, we're kind of in a bubble, you leave just, if you just leave Edinburgh, there's a lot of gap from here to Falfurrias,
Right.
a lot of space, so it's a very unique area.
Let's push on that South Texas Democrat.
Yeah.
So when you have like the in your head, what are the attributes and characteristics that a South Texas Democrat should encompass?
You know, you always hear people describe themselves. At least I have. I don't know about you, but I've always heard people describe themselves. Oh, I'm socially liberal, fiscally conservative. That's something that a lot of people would say. I'm socially liberal, fiscally conservative, right? I think the Rio Grande Valley is the opposite. It's culturally is liberal and fiscally uh, progressive. Because and I have this conversation with a lot of friends of mine that say I identify as a Republican. I got lots of Republican friends and say I identify as a Republican. I'm a Republican. I said, okay. I said, but you do realize that our area is an area that, whether we like it or not, depends on the government to help us.
Mm-hmm.
Like this area, I don't care how you can say I'm Republican because of taxes or whatever reason, right? But at the end of the day, one of our big economic drivers is healthcare down here. There's just, I mean, the hospital business, just all kinds of stuff, right? Home health, there's just a bunch of, it's a huge economic driver. So for us, we depend on a lot of government money
Right.
at all levels. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, or if you're somebody that's even underprivileged, you're benefiting in some way, shape, or form. That's just the way it's been. Now, we are a lot of small business owners, and I'm pretty concerned about that right now because I think the policies that we're seeing right now are hurting small businesses on
Right.
many levels. But I would say that down here people are culturally conservative, but when it comes to the economic issues, not as much. I think we're progressive. I mean, in other words, Medicare, Medicaid is a part of our life. Now, do I love government waste? No, I hate it. Um, Republicans are against government. They want government to just get the heck out of their lives. And I'm more in the middle where I believe in better government.
Yeah.
Not, not I don't believe in just making government and say, okay, free for all, because people will abuse it and people do abuse it. And
Right.
a lot of times that pisses off people on the right and they're like, well, I'm not going to do it anymore. But I believe that there could be a happy medium where you try to eliminate the fraud, waste, and abuse, and still just try to produce a better government
Yeah.
and that works for everybody.
Yeah, that would be great. And you hit a topic there because I talk to a lot of grant writers because I help Amor Infinito, which is a nonprofit here in the Rio Grande Valley. And the grant writers talk about that this place specifically is great for grants because this that hits all the poverty levels, everything that we can get grant money for, you can get it here in the Rio Grande Valley. And that kind of makes me think sometimes because the poverty level is really high here. And
Yes.
also we're going to go into the healthcare and public health in the Rio Grande Valley. Now you mentioned specifically that you don't have healthcare, right?
I do not have health insurance,
Can you
Josh.
can you kind of touch on that? Go a little
Yeah,
deeper?
I think when I came out with my launch video, it got a little bit misinterpreted because people said, "Oh, come on, man, you're a millionaire and you don't have health insurance." And I get that, right? Well, what I said is I don't have health insurance because it's too expensive, not I can't afford it.
Right.
I'm a businessman, right? Anytime I buy something, I got to see if there's a value, right? So we live on the border. My wife, my wife and I have a house in Mexico. So we travel there and we spend time over there. And I've had a pretty unique perspective of experiencing healthcare over there and healthcare here
Right.
and being able to weigh the two. And we're getting hosed here. It's expensive.
Hmm.
It's not worth what it is. The healthcare is great. What does it cost you to have it with the insurance companies? See, the insurance companies are driving up the cost of this. And people like myself get in the middle. Now, I have a pretty big disdain for health insurance companies. I do. I think they prioritize profits over people. And and so I made a decision when we came, when we got married and we were here, me and my wife, she told me, hey, I need you, we need to get health insurance. And I'm like, I've had bad experience with them. I don't like them.
Yeah.
And my thing is like, I like to save my money. And so I said, if we have a health issue, we'll just pay, just go to the hospital and pay. Right. I mean, why feed into the system when they're just hosing us? Like it's
Right.
not value. So they came over and they gave us this plans and I told my wife, I got in trouble with her because she was not too happy that I didn't want to pay into the system because I didn't think it was worth it. And um, she was like, okay, fine. So months later, I had a problem, a health problem, health issue. And I went to the doctor and they said to a specialist and they said, do you have health insurance? I said, no, I'm private pay. So I paid $300 office visit. Now I don't have health insurance, so I'm playing with house money, right? I mean,
Right.
$300 is like not bad. It doesn't hurt because I'd be paying, 750 a month or $800 or $1,000 in premiums. No,
Right.
it's over 1,000. It was going to be over $1,000, right? So then they said, oh, we need to run a test on you. And I said, well, how much is the test? I said, well, go up front and ask them. So I went up front and said, hey, I'm scheduled for a test, but how much is it going to be? They said, we'll call you.
Hmm.
So they called me a day before the test and said, Mr. Pulido, do you have health insurance? And I was like, no, I'm private pay. And they're like, oh, it's that the test is $10,000.
Wow.
And I said, well, I guess I'm not getting the test.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we can do a payment plan. I said, no, ma'am. She was really nice. I said, no, ma'am, I'm not paying $10,000 for the test. Like, I'll go to Mexico. I'll go do something else, but I'm not going to spend that kind of money. I said, but here's what I want you to do. Go tell your boss, ask your boss how much I can pay in cash, and I'll tell you if I can afford it or not. Josh, I got a call 3 hours later. They let me have it for $1,500
Wow.
from 10,000 to 1,500.
Interesting.
And so I started thinking to myself, like, okay, I'm a person of means. What is this doing to somebody that doesn't have the $1,500 cash to
Right.
pay? Right?
Exactly.
They're tricking you into thinking, okay, you're paying $300 or $400 a month, every month, every month, every month. But it's the scare tactics of, hey, if something happens, then you're going to be left with financial bankruptcy and stuff like that. There's a lot of fear when it comes to healthcare, especially dealing with insurance companies. And so
Absolutely.
I started thinking most of the people don't have the liquidity to have the $1,500 laying around. What are they doing? And this is something this is why I said, I'm going to fight for this because this is wrong. This is wrong. I mean, the health insurance companies, it's like if you go to a restaurant, right? And you order a meal and it's $30 for the meal.
Hmm.
You go eat your food. They bring you the bill and you say, you know what? I'm going to pay you $15 because that's how good it was. That's I didn't feel it was worth 30.
Right.
They're going to call the police officer and tell you, you better pay. If not, we're going to go arrest you, right?
Yeah.
But health insurance companies get away with telling the medical field that, nah, we'll give you this. So the medical field keeps increasing their billing
Just to see how much they can take a little bit more and a little bit more.
to try to hit their number, right? So they're constantly doing that. But somebody like me, if you don't have insurance, you get caught in the middle and you're seeing the price that they're charging that insurance company so they can get those 1,500.
Hmm.
And so there's a problem with it. It's unsustainable. It is unsustainable. So for me, it was more of an issue of, is this valuable? Am I getting value out of it? And it's not. It's not. And they I feel like I feel really bad for all the people because it's playing with people's lives.
Yeah, it really is. I was seeing in Brownsville that electricity and water rates have skyrocketed. I saw somebody, they sent me one of their bills because I did a documentary on the flooding that happened in March. And I've been talking about the water issues that have been going on in Rio Grande Valley. And now there's issues in Brownsville with the electricity and the water where some people were paying like $1,600 for their electricity and water. And the poverty over there is really bad too. So I can't even imagine how a lot of those people are paying these bills or what they're doing because it's heartbreaking to see so many people reach out to me that are dealing with these problems across the Rio Grande Valley. But on the same issue too, is the Rio Grande Valley has some of the highest rates of diabetes and obesity in the country. McAllen and surrounding cities, Edinburgh, are ranked number 1 in the nation for most obese in the nation. I feel like a lot of the healthcare is reactive and not proactive.
Agreed?
So, what do you see on your end as far as healthcare when we go that route? Because the Rio Grande Valley has a lot of sick people. Like there's no debate about that. But
Yeah.
what do you see about like it happening with like what are your thoughts?
I mean, I'll tell you, Josh, like even healthy eating was something that got politicized. Okay. And I'm gonna tell you, I am not about politicizing something. When RFK talks, RFK Jr. talks, and I there's a lot of things I don't agree with, but one thing that I do agree with him is that our foods are not healthy.
Yeah.
We have additives in our foods that other countries ban. Now it's pretty funny, right? How we always talk about in Europe they don't allow all these things, but in Europe they also have universal health care, right? So we have other things that, but we just tend to pick and choose things in Europe that we want to fit our
Right.
political agenda, right? But what bothers me, Josh, is I'm old enough to remember when Michelle Obama was vice president, was the first lady, not vice president.
Hmm.
She was the first lady, and she had a healthy food initiative.
Right.
Now, at the time, I remember I would try to get my politics fix on talk radio, and sometimes I'd be listening to a Rush Limbaugh that would say, "We need they're coming for our freedoms. They want to control what we eat. If I want to be able to eat a greasy hamburger with a big old, 48 ounce big gulp, I should be able to do that because it's freedom."
Right.
Right? And that was on the right. That was a Republican talking, right? But all of a sudden, when the Democrats do it, they don't like it. This is what we need to get away from. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea, no matter what party does it. If RFK Jr. says, "Hey, I want to make our foods more healthier," I'm all for that. Now, don't confuse that. I don't agree with every single thing that, to me, there's some of the things that guy talks about that are batshit crazy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to our foods and eating healthier foods, I'm all for that. I mean, my wife is the big health nut. We try to eat the best we can. But here's the problem, Josh. It's very expensive to eat healthy.
It really is.
I mean, I lived in Miami for a little bit, and I'd go shop at Whole Foods. Man, dude, I felt poor when I'd leave that place because it was expensive.
Yeah.
So eating healthy needs to be more affordable. Now, I don't think tariffs is the way to go because that just makes everything more expensive. And so there's a lot of things that I take it case by case, I call it like I see it. If something needs to get fixed and we need to be more proactive, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. But we need to also understand that if we talk about that, it's not that we're becoming dictatorial
Right.
or that we want to take away your freedoms to eat the foods you want to eat. It's not that. So from that end, I'm more about, look, my eyes tell me yes, we do have an obesity crisis. We have a lot of high diabetes, and we need to do something about it and get more proactive. So I'm all for doing everything because I want a healthy community down here.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
and on that subject specifically, the environment and public health, like personally for me, I feel like the environment is the most important thing because if you don't have the environment, well, then there's really no healthy people and there's no
Yeah.
one to serve, right? So I'm not sure if you knew this, but I've been digging into research ever since I started the documentary, and I keep finding startling stuff about the Rio Grande Valley. So in 2023, there were 32,000 pounds of carcinogens released into the air in Cameron County. Over the past 10 years, which is 2013 to 2023, there were 288,000 pounds of carcinogens released in Cameron County. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
So this is through rgvhealthconnect.org, and it just has so much data on the Rio Grande Valley. And I feel like 99% of people don't know this stuff. And I go back to the environments. If the
Yeah.
environment's not clean, what's the point?
Yeah, but most people don't see it that way, Josh. And unfortunately, right? Because unfortunately, the way a lot of people see it is the environment's not something you see every day. You don't see those carcinogens. There's not a face to those carcinogens with the
Right.
ugly face that you see, right? Now, what's in Cameron County? SpaceX? Is that space? Does that have anything to do with it? I don't know. Was that a
It's
part of it?
yeah, it could be. A lot of people say that it's too new to have the effect there,
Oh,
but a lot of people, yeah,
this was something prior to that?
correct, yeah. So it has started since 2013 to 2023. There has been 288,000 pounds of carcinogens released. So SpaceX is another thing on top of
Right.
that.
Who's doing that releasing? Like, let's leave SpaceX aside. Who's doing that releasing? Do you know?
The
Like,
data does not show that.
okay, because is it on this side of the border or is it on the Mexican side?
It shows that it's coming out of Harlingen.
Harlingen. Wow.
Correct.
Because like I know in the Rio Grande Valley, right? We have a predominant southeastern wind.
Hmm.
It comes from the southeast, right? We know that if there's not a northern that blows in, our normal wind blows from the southeast. Now, could it come from Mexico?
Possibly.
If it's a southeastern wind that's blowing from the other side of the border, it absolutely could be something that we need to look at. I mean, I'm just, and of course, I'm not a scientist. I'm
Right.
just, I'm a golfer, so I know. So
Yeah.
when I golf, I know where the wind's blowing out, where it's blowing out of, and so, uh, I'd bet you a dollar to the donuts that some of this stuff that's going on is not even probably happening in our country. We try to be as much as we can. Now, the EPA got defunded. I'm
Right.
against that. Like that's crazy. That's craziness, man. Um, I, why am I a Democrat, man? Because I believe in better government. And government is not perfect. It makes mistakes.
Yeah.
But I believe you should always strive to have a better government working for the people. Because I can't make the case, right? Or I can't understand how people would say, I'm a Republican, we need to get rid of government, but vote for
Right.
me. Why am I voting for you?
Yeah.
So you can just get the hell out of the way and do nothing? Like
Exactly.
that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, let me ask you this. So while we're on the subject of the environment, would you support stronger environmental protections or oversight for industries operating specifically in South Texas?
Of course.
Good.
Of
Great.
course I of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. But more research has to be done to really pinpoint where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you got to have the political will to not cater to these special interests that just want to hoard us. And
Right.
so there's got to be definitely a delicate balance. Now, if this is coming from Mexico, I think we have to have more of a concern, you know, and diplomatic relations, which I'm concerned about our diplomatic relations right now because they're not really good anywhere.
Right.
The world is trading around us now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the value of the dollar keeps dipping. I'm really worried, and I'm not trying to be political. I I truly am worried because I don't care in what walk of life you are. You need friends. You need friends, and we need friends. And we tend to recently pissed off our good friends and tried to make friends with our enemies, and our enemies don't like us, and they're friends and they're colluding against us, and so we're going to have better diplomatic relations for our own benefit.
Yeah. I read a statistic the other day that the dollar has lost about 95% of its value, which is mind-boggling if you think about that. And then what happens in the future? Like that's the crazier part is like, does it continue to decline, and then what?
Well, that's my biggest concern, Josh, being from the valley, is that I don't know if man, I'm sure you're old enough to remember this, but historically, La Plaza Mall was the number one mall in sales in the nation
Yep.
because we would have the valley depends a lot on tourism.
Hmm.
It always has. economic tourism from Mexico. People would come from Reynosa, from Tampico, from all these areas, right? They would come in, they spend their dollars. Right now is a great time for Mexicans to come to the valley and spend their pesos because the dollar's so weak.
Yeah.
And you know what's happening, Josh? They're not coming. Border traffic is down than what it used to be, down 35%.
Yeah, and that's devastating for the Rio Grande Valley.
It is absolutely devastating for all of our business community down here. Absolutely, it's devastating because look, it's like if you take a really strong antibiotic, right? It kills the bad bacteria, but it also kills the good bacteria too. It
Mhm.
kills everything. And right now, our immigration policy has kind of crushed everything. There's not people coming illegally anymore like they were, but neither are the good traffic.
Right.
They, in other words, because if you really analyze what the Trump administration has done or hasn't done, it hasn't fixed it. It hasn't fixed it with policy. It's just fear.
It really
But
is fair.
but fear is not a policy. It's not. You can short term it, but I tell people all the time. They go, look at what Trump's done. Nobody's coming over here. It's great. I go, well, be careful what you wish for, because we could definitely use tourism dollars here in our small businesses. I
Absolutely.
said, but fear is not a policy. He's not going to be here forever. I mean, you know, when he's not here, if we don't fix it with policy, then we're going to go back to making this issue a political football. And then somebody else, if you elect the Democrat later, and they don't want to fix it, and then they flood it in again, and we're just going to keep doing this. We need to fix it, and it's going to say like, hey, let's be humane about this, not go visit job sites and seeing who you can pick up and separating families and trying to, put the bad boy song in your social media like if you're scaring the shit out of everybody and
Yeah.
and saying we're going to make a prison with alligators around and eat you. Like this is not who we should be. I'm telling you. Maybe it's who we are, but it's not who we should be. And so I'm for strong borders, man. We have a lot of border patrol agents here that hated what happened when President Biden was there. That just a fact. They weren't happy. They didn't feel like it was getting addressed. But then comes in the other side and they do like the opposite, and just nobody's like saying, "Oh, let's fix the border,"
Right.
without calling them names, without all the bullshit. Let's just fix it. And I don't feel like that's what's happening right now. So, I it's going to take working with people across the aisle that are sensible. That way we can fix this issue because we do need this tourism.
Yeah.
We do need our small business, dude. I'm telling you, the Trump administration feels like, oh no, no, no. If you get rid of all these undocumented people, you can just your young, your 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds are going to want to go and nail roof, nail on the roof. They don't want to do it.
Right.
They're trying to do it right now. They can't field crews to do this. And
Yeah.
understand one thing, construction is very skilled labor.
Hmm.
I mean, there's an art to pouring concrete. You got to know what you're doing. And so there's a huge learning curve, and you got a lot of money on the books. When you have a project you need to finish, you have your note with the bank that you have to pay. And if you don't have a crew that knows what they're doing, and I'll be honest with you, the Rio Grande Valley's always been very affordable to live,
Right.
and I think it's because of that.
Yeah, you're
But
right
also,
because the Rio Grande Valley is growing fast, and I know this for a fact because I work with a lot of home builders. I run lead generation ads for them, and at one point I got a lot of calls saying that the crews aren't even showing up and they're scared to come out.
yeah,
So you
that's
can
right.
you can see that that's just in that one industry. You're not talking about in the food industry or any other industry at all.
Restaurants and stuff like that, man. I mean, we're in trouble, and we need to start fixing things. And I don't feel like it's being addressed right now by our current congresswoman. And more importantly, like she's just kind of a token vote for the administration, whatever they want to do. I'm of the mindset that absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. That's a saying. It's a long old saying. And right now in our political system, they have a majority in everything,
Yeah.
including the Supreme Court. And I believe that the best government is the one that moves slowly with checks and balances. That's how it was designed to work. And right now, I think that there's a huge imbalance in our political system.
Let's talk about the economy because I feel like obviously the economy here in the Rio Grande Valley feels very heavy for a lot of the families that are living here, especially where the paychecks don't buy what they used to buy.
Right?
How do you think the people in South Texas are really doing? Like when you speak to them, when you talk to them, what are their thoughts? What are the things that they're telling you?
There's a lot of fear. Look, and I talk to a lot of people on at all levels, right? Um, I think a lot of small business owners, because of the tariffs, listen, the tariffs, there's two things about the tariffs that are a problem, in my opinion. Look, tariffs have always been used for certain industries to kind of level the playing field. It's not a blanket thing that you should just do. Now, the problem with the tariffs that I see the biggest problem is if you're a small business owner, you can't just recently, just the other day, Josh, now because of China, Trump threatened a 100% tariff.
100%, yeah.
You can't plan if there is instability with our governments because when you're a small business owner, you got a budget
Right.
and you have to budget in all of those expenses. But if you don't know what the administration is going to do and they're going to lower it, they're going to raise it, they're going to do this, it creates a lot of uncertainty. And uncertainty for small businesses is a bad thing.
Absolutely.
It's not a good thing. So what's happening right now is there's people going, well, tell me what you're going to do so I can see what I'm doing. Because when they put a tariff, and I'll be honest, right? The general public doesn't pay all of it. They probably pay maybe half or a little bit more. But the small business owner sometimes eats up the other part,
Right.
right? And
Just to
so
stay in business.
just to stay in business because they're going to go, I can't raise this that much. So I'm going to take a hit. So small businesses are hurting. Everything's more expensive for people. They go and they say, man, there's a lot of people down here in the valley. They like their cafecito in the morning. Dude, it's expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really expensive. And there's a lot of things, if you want like our carnes asadas, right? Down here, man, you have tailgating parties, the meat, everybody buys meat. That's a part of our life, right?
Everybody's buying chicken now.
They chicken because it's cheaper, man. They can't afford the beef.
Yeah.
And so it it's not working.
You know,
It's
the
not.
crazy part too is that when Trump tweeted that the 100% tariffs, the market sank, and then the next day he posted something again that
Right.
President Xi needed to chill or whatever like that, and the markets went right back up. Right?
But did you see that somebody made a real big buy on on crypto?
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
and
hundreds of
made
millions of dollars.
hundreds of millions of dollars they made.
Yeah.
Uh, look, man, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you're gonna sit there and call the other side corrupt and you're doing the same thing, it's a big hypocrisy, man.
Yeah.
It's you cannot just call one side out of it. I think we've gotten played. We're getting played, and people are getting rich, and the middle class is getting the middle finger.
Yeah. It's
It's
unfortunate, man. Let's touch on the small businesses again because that's obviously the heartbeat of the United States. And I'm hosting a debate on this Thursday for Edinburgh, and the small businesses come up quite a bit because it's a huge issue there, obviously. What policies or ideas do you have specifically to help small businesses in the Rio Grande Valley to stay strong, to grow?
well, I mean, first of all, it's dismantling the things that are hurting small business right now, right? Because I think our small business community was very vibrant
Yeah.
prior to this administration. Now, tourism was better. There's a lot of metrics that you can point to. You know, uh, I think a lot of we have a huge entrepreneurial spirit in
Yep.
the valley, right? And a lot of times, Josh, let me tell you, why am I a South Texas Democrat? Because I believe that all of us in some way, shape, or form down here had a helping hand. I don't care if you're a multimillionaire down here, somebody helped you early on,
Right.
right? So I do believe in small business loans. Listen, there's a lot of things that we can do, but every solution takes money. Everyone. There's no solution that you can really say, oh, with no money, you can still make it happen. Money is investment.
Yeah.
And what it's going to entail is us prioritizing those investments and balancing our budget in our country. Since Reagan, the tax rate for big corporations keeps going down, 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 down. The only president that kind of really picked it up was Bill Clinton, and coincidentally, he's the last one to balance our budget.
Hmm.
A Democrat, right? The myth is that Republicans are better for the economy. It's not true. Democrats are better. GDP's better. Unemployment's better. And it's not me. Go ask ChatGPT. Don't ask me. Go ask somebody that's not politically affiliated and one that just looks at statistics, right? So you know, it's prioritizing where we invest and who you invest in.
All right.
And you can't do that if you lose a lot of tax revenue from these really, really rich corporations. Just recently, reports have come out. We took in $77 billion less in taxes
Hmm.
just off the bat. In 2017, Trump passed a real big tax cut. And now we have hindsight to look at what they did with those. They went and bought more stocks.
Hmm.
And so there's an interesting game going on in this country where they tie your 401k to the stock market.
Right.
They'll keep you happy enough that your 401k is doing well on stock market, but in Main Street, everything's expensive and you're not getting ahead. But if you're somebody that doesn't own any stocks, you're getting screwed.
Which is a lot of people.
A
A
lot
lot
of
of people don't
right.
own assets, no
That's
stocks.
right. Everything is being catered towards the stock market. And I'm not poo-pooing the stock market, right? But it's not everything.
Right.
When you go eat and you go to a restaurant, that's not a stock market. That's a small business selling you that food. And so there has to be a balance when it comes to that. And I don't think that's where we are. It feels like in this country, the system wants to keep your nostrils just above water, but they want you in debt. I have a friend of mine that's a millionaire,
Hmm.
okay? A real millionaire and has bad credit. Why do you think he has bad credit? Because he doesn't use it. Because when you're a millionaire, you just pay everything cash.
Right.
But the system is devised for you to be in debt to show you, hey, you got great credit. You're doing great. I'm from the old school. My grandfather would always say, son, you always got to have money for a rainy day. Don't spend money, save money within your means. And it just seems like we constantly getting squeezed on credit, credit, credit,
Yeah.
credit. And the whole economic system that we have now is if you're spending money, it doesn't matter if you're charging it on the card, that's a good thing. When in reality, is it really good?
Right.
I don't think living in a hellacious debt is a positive thing. And so there has to be a balance where we do have savings, but right now people can't afford to put money away because they're getting hit in all angles from everywhere.
Exactly. I even heard a statistic the other day said that it's so bad now that they have the buy now, pay later like options at restaurants now. Like that's
Isn't
pretty insane.
that's insane, dude. It should not be that way.
Right.
And so I just feel like the politicians and the whole political system is are making decisions at the whims of these corporations. They don't care about the people.
On the corporation side, so we got SpaceX tech growth here, and the future of the South Texas seems like it's going to start going towards a tech-based stuff. Well, obviously, we got SpaceX here, we got ZOHO in McAllen, and then they just bought a bunch of land in Edinburgh. Let's start with SpaceX. What are your thoughts on SpaceX?
I I I mean, it's pretty cool to see rockets go up in the air. Um, but there's a lot more to it than just that, right? I mean, there's environmental concerns and things like that. And wink, wink, the EPA got defunded, and,
Hmm.
and so and one of the guys pushing for that was Elon, right? On, you know, get them out of my hair because they're making it harder for me.
Yeah.
And I get it, right? I get it. Sometimes when government officials are given power, they can overplay that power and piss off. There's a delicate balance that needs to be struck. But I still think looking overall on the big picture is our environment's important and people have a job to protect it. Um, I'll tell you, I believe that water is a bigger priority to me than rockets.
Yeah.
Uh, getting to Mars, it's a cool thing, but we have a water crisis here. Uh, we should be investing in desal plants because truth of the matter is there's not enough water on in the river to repay us all the water that Mexico owes us.
Yeah.
It's just not enough. And so it's going to require a huge investment here with brackish water and desal plants to get it. But again, everything's about prioritizing stuff.
So,
What's let me ask you a question.
yeah.
What's more important? What do you think is more important to our community down here? Going to Mars or fixing our water?
Fixing the water issues. I've been talking about this for a long time because the water issues here are, for one, they're bad. Obviously, we got the Rio Grande River, which is highly polluted. Our
Right?
Arroyo Colorado, which is also highly contaminated. Our tap water, which we get from the Rio Grande River, and it's getting pushed through these water stations, which is questionable
Yeah.
about the output of it too.
Right.
Absolutely, it's 100% water.
And this is not a knock on Elon,
Hmm.
right? It's not a knock on Elon. I think he's doing some great things and that's cool. But here's where I have a problem with it. We're subsidizing that, right? So our tax dollars are going to that when I think that those tax dollars could have been for more infrastructure in our water. Now we need better water capturing programs and things like that, which Commissioner David Fuentes is really doing a big thing over there in Westlaco. But I feel like we need more investment when it comes to that. And if you're trying to cut everybody's that got a bunch of money's taxes, where is that money going to come from?
Right.
Right? Look, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm smart enough to know that nothing in life just comes for free and we can just get things out of thin air and everything will be great. Everything costs money and it's cost investment. And how are we going to use those tax dollars and balance our budget so we can invest in these long-term projects for our sustainability down here? And it's just down here. I mean, I've gone up to Beeville, I've gone up to areas, San Patricio County. They're having major water issues over there.
Yeah.
Aransas.
Corpus
This
is having bad issues too.
huge problems. So this is not just a valley issue. It's a regional issue that's going to require a tremendous amount of investment.
Yeah.
And that money's going to come, it's got to come from somewhere. It's taxpayers.
Yeah. Let's push on the infrastructure issue because I saw, I forget what it was. It was a flood plan for South Texas, and I saw that there was 88,000 homes and 300 facilities that lie directly within the RGV floodplain. So that means that every time it rains, and it's not even a hurricane, every time we get heavy rains, maybe it's not even heavy rain, some of the stuff, some of the areas flood significantly, and a lot of the places that didn't flood before, they're flooding now. And it's a lot to do with the infrastructure. So from what I understand is we've been dealing with these issues since Beulah, 1967.
Yeah.
What do you have on your radar as far as the infrastructure or the flooding? Because I know so many people through my documentary that were devastated because of the floods, and they flood every year, every single year. And a lot of them are just like, nobody's paying attention to us. Nobody even cares. I don't even feel like I'm being listened to. What are your thoughts on that? What ideas do you have?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this. I believe that we need to invest. Everything goes back to investment, right? When they sell these people these properties in those areas, they sell it to them really cheap
Hmm.
because they know that. And that's all they can afford, right? So if an area is in a floodplain, you get a pretty good deal on that land,
Right.
right? But we know that when things happen, a catastrophe, a heavy rain or something, a big thunderstorm, it's going to affect it. Um, Now, a lot of times, I feel like a lot of these people need to get more involved also in the political system,
Right.
in the political fight. Josh, we have a 38% voter turnout down here of registered voters.
Wow.
That's that's that means people listen. I'm running for office for the first time, so I'm not an expert in this, right? I don't know, like, but I know one thing: politicians will go to the votes. My 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 plea to these people that are having these issues: get politically involved, go out and vote, be a force. Because then when you do that, I promise you, you're going to get attention brought to you. Now, that's not coming from me, right? I believe I'm a Democrat because I fight for the little guy. And the people that are being affected for this are the little guy. But we need your support
Yeah.
because, there's a saying in Spanish, el niño que no llora, no come,
Yeah.
And so they need to be a force. They need to be a voting block. People need to la gente se tiene que unir y decir, oye, help us out here. And trust me, I know at the local level, they're trying,
Yeah.
but it takes money. And, I know at the federal level, we're going to have a say in that. And that's going to be something that we're going to try to do for sure. I mean, at least for me, right? Because I can only imagine how bad it is. We've gotten close. I live in an area that's not like an A-rated. I live in a rural area that sometimes the waters come really close to getting in.
Yeah.
And it's an issue. And the more construction there is around you,
Right.
right? Everybody's building, everybody starts building. We built here a long time ago. Now you're the low ground.
Yeah.
Hey, and guess what? That water starts funneling towards you.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so there's a lot of issues. I think the irrigation district's done a great job with with the tools that they've had, but we need to help them on the federal level as well.
Absolutely. Let me pick your brain on this because like I was talking about earlier is these tech companies that are coming in. Obviously they're coming here maybe because the land's cheap, the area is cheap, well inexpensive, I will say. What happens when the AI infrastructures come, it uses about 1 million gallons of water a day to cool the servers and data centers. And this is a massive issue that you're starting to see in other areas in the United States. What happens if we get something like that here in the Rio Grande Valley, and then what? With
There's
the
a site,
water issues that we have,
there's a there's an old song, Josh, in Spanish. It says, "Acábame de matar, ¿para qué me dejas herido?" We can't handle it.
no,
We can't handle it anymore. Listen, these data centers, AI data centers, are driving energy costs through the roof.
yeah,
We already have water issues. Where the hell we're going to pull the water for these data centers? You know,
yeah,
when are we going to start taking care of people and stop focusing on computers? I mean, AI is great because you can go chat GPT and find information, but what it's taking for that to do, it's at our cost. I mean, our livelihoods.
Let me ask you this. So the whole America forward, regardless of what anybody thinks, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Because I'm starting to see a lot of Rio Grande cities kind of adopt that. For example, this city forward, and I feel like a lot of it is at the expense of the community.
It can, it can be. It just depends on. Listen, I'm running for U.S. Congress. There's a lot of local issues. I think that local people on the ground here are more versed than I am because they represent the community and they've actually been there. Um, I definitely want to learn about it, and I want to have an objective opinion
Yeah.
and take it on a case by case basis, right? Because not all companies are bad.
Right.
Not corporations are bad. It's just, what are you going to do for us, and at what cost is that going to be to our community? That's you know, and I'll tell you something. A lot of times in public office, many times elected officials, they just want to get the win. I secured so much.
Right.
So hey, yeah, I got you the money. And we don't really look at is the implementation of how it's going to affect the future. What is going to
Right.
be the repercussions of it?
Yeah, the direct future and also 10 to 20 years from
That's
now.
correct. But that's correct. And I feel like a lot of times politicians and elected officials are very reactionary instead of showing a vision and a wisdom of what we're trying to accomplish long term, and what is that going to look like. I
Right.
mean, I'll tell you, like, I come from the music business, and the music business was completely caught off guard when Napster came in and started downloading.
Hmm.
Like, the music business had no clue. They were asleep at the wheel as to what that was going to do to our business. And they hurt us. And so then it took so long for the music business to finally come out with streaming and other sources that still is not as good as it used to be, but it's better. But I mean, it's a 15-year, 10, 15-year time period of growth that it takes to get there. I think if we look at things in terms of people's lives and what affects them, we really have to have a very, very forward thinking and almost a predictive view of what are we accomplishing right now, and what is this going to get us in the future.
Right.
And I think the internet is another thing. The internet caught everybody by surprise. It was unregulated, and it's caused a lot of problems. And I think AI is the same way, man. They tried crafting in this last bill. The AI companies had a legislation that for 10 years you couldn't touch them.
Hmm.
You couldn't change anything. Luckily, some even on the right, I might add, Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of them, said, mm-mm, and they took it out. And I'm so glad, because I agree with that, right? Because
Gives them too much power.
it gives them way too much power, man. Like, you know, and again, I'm not looking at things, Josh, through the lens of the red blue divide, right? I'm just looking at what is it right for the people. What's the most important thing for the people?
Yeah. Let's go to your vision of the future. So this is if you win this election, what do your first 100 days look like?
Oh gosh. um, I know what I want to fight for, Josh, but I'd be lying if I told you I'm gonna get in. If I were to get in, I'm gonna do this, do this, do this. I, I, I think there's a learning curve when you get in. You gotta find your bearings and see where you're at and see how the whole system works. And then once you know what the panorama is, then you say, okay, here's my plan on how to go fight for what I want to fight for.
Hmm.
Um, I I can't sit here and tell you there's no school that prepares you for Congress. Like, I don't even think the state house in Texas prepares you for US Congress. It's a different animal.
Yeah.
They're completely different. And I know what I want to fight for. I think, especially down here, I think immigration reform is something that both parties have not really put on the plate and really made a big enough effort to fix it. Now, Obama tried, but when Obama was there, Republicans just said, whatever you do, we're going to be against, even if it's good.
Jeez.
And that got him into doing a lot of executive orders, which at the time was the most executive orders that we've ever had. But what precedent that set is now Trump came and just smashed his record on executive orders.
Since day one.
Since day one, right? So they're taking the power away from Congress. That's not what our founding fathers intended. And sometimes it makes me laugh when Republicans try to grab the mantle of the constitutionalists, but everything that you're seeing right now is anti-constitution.
Hmm.
Like, there's so much freedom of speech, them deprogramming Jimmy Kimmel. Like, there's a lot of stuff, man, that's been going on that is anti-constitutional. And you have some Republicans like Thomas Massey that's rightfully so, hasn't lost sight of who they believe they are. So I'm a student of politics. I love seeing both sides and seeing how they work. And I'm very happy with my values that I have and what I want to fight for. And so when I go to Washington, I think healthcare is another one that I want to tackle. I think that our healthcare system, I don't know what's going to happen from here to the end when these ACA subsidies expire. I don't know what's going to happen there, but at the rate that it's going, it's unsustainable. And what you're seeing now is people are just saying, I'm just going to brave it without it,
Yeah.
right? And what happens then is when they get sick, they go to the ER and it's uncompensated care. They don't have the insurance, but you still got to treat them. That's where it gets really expensive for the government.
Hmm.
And I think that that's going to become very unsustainable. Remember, I told you, like, I'm trying to see down the road, like, where are we going?
Right.
And how can we stave that off? Because it's not going to be good. It's going to be a big problem. And I might add too, the same thing happens in immigration, right? If you look at the majority of the people that were undocumented that were working here, we don't pay them the wages that you pay somebody that's a citizen.
Right.
They take out Social Security that they never get back. They never get that back. If you're undocumented, you don't get that money back at all, right? They were they've been supplementing, Josh, to a tune of almost $100 billion a year.
Wow.
Okay, of paying Social Security. Social Security is going insolvent if we don't do something about it. But what's going to happen when you take almost $100 billion or billions and billions of dollars out of the workforce now, and people that were paying in that they were not going to get money back? Immigration is that big of an issue because younger folk like my sons are not having kids because it's too expensive. And Social Security was devised to where you pay here and you move on. And when you're ready to collect, the same amount of people are paying here or more people are paying here. What they
Right.
hadn't thought of is what if there's less people paying into the system? Well, that's creating a big insolvency problem that we're having. The best way to fix that is through immigration, is to import people to come in here and pay into the system, right? That way it becomes there's more people paying into the system. But I feel like there's a white nationalist element in the Republican Party right now, headed by Stephen Miller, that is trying to get rid of people. And they're afraid that Hispanics are going to overpower them and there's going to be too many Hispanics. And so they're very really aggressive,
That's
really aggressive.
interesting.
And so I think immigration is 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 a plus to us. We just have to do it in the right way.
Right.
Incentivize them to do it. Like, I'm a big Thomas Friedman fan. I love reading Thomas Friedman. He's a center right writer. And he wrote an article that says we need to open the gates bigger legally. That way people can say, oh, you know what? Let's go do it legally. It's not going to be a crapshoot to see if I get in. It may take me 4 or 5 years, but we're going to have to import more people because our system can't sustain it at the pace that it's going. Just people are not having children
Right.
like they used to.
Yeah, that's a huge issue. And then just to finish off the podcast, what's your message to the young Tejanos who look up to you, both as an artist and now as a candidate stepping into the public service?
Well, my message is I'm just like you. I know you may see me as like, oh, he's this a singer and famous and all that, but at the end of the day, I'm a family man. I have kids. I love my family. I want the best for them. Um, I raise them the way I was raised, and it would be an honor for me to represent you. It would be an honor, and I hope you judge me for me and not judge me based on a party label. Um, and just judge me based on the things that I want to go fight for.
Awesome. Bobby, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sharing your message with us.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the great talk, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome. I'll see you soon.
Okay, man. Ándale.
Good luck.
Thank you.